My boyfriend and I bought a house before marriage, which is a hot topic, so let's get right into it, okay? So let's do a little backstory here. My boyfriend and I were long distance the entire time we were dating. So we started dating when I was a freshman in college. I was living in Maryland, he was living in Ohio, and then I graduated college a year early. So we dated the entire 3 years I was in school, long distance. We were living together for summers, so we knew what it was like to live together. But basically, like, obviously when you're long distance, you need the idea in your head, like, when is the long distance going to end? And so we both talked about how once I was done with school, because he was like a grade ahead of me, but then we ended up graduating the same year anyways, because I graduated early. But whenever I was done with school, we were going to move in together. That was our plan. That's like what we always had talked about. So that's exactly what we did. When I was done with school, I moved to Houston. We both moved to Houston together in an apartment, and we had one dog. Stanley got a dog like a couple years ago. Then we wanted that one dog to have a friend, and then so we got a second dog. Both of these dogs were rescues, okay? So they were living a better life in an apartment with us than they would obviously in a shelter or a kennel. But they ended up being big dogs. And so I wanted a backyard for them so bad, okay? So I really, really wanted a house, but for them. But regardless, I really did want to live in a house. I think renting is just so awful. It's like you get trapped in like a money scam. They just like literally wax you. Especially the apartment we were in, like it costed so much money to have dogs in an apartment. And then when you move out, they charge you like all those cleaning fees. And it just like, I really didn't love living in an apartment. And I lived in like, I was an RA all of college, so I lived in like a dorm apartment. I lived by myself, which, I mean, it was really nice for like, it was free, so it was nice for being free. But then like paying to live in an apartment, it's like, I feel like you rent until you can buy a house, right? And so I was like, I want to buy a house as soon as possible. And my boyfriend and I both agreed that, you know, we didn't want to just keep renting and like throwing money away, basically. And so we were like, we have to save. And so we started being like very frugal, I would say, which was so like hard because we both love going out to eat and we both like love just like doing things. And so all of college, we traveled a lot, like obviously every weekend I would like go to see him, but then we also went on like a lot of trips. We would go out to eat all the time. And so then when we were like, okay, well now we want to save for a house, we kind of need to like get out of that mindset and start saving for a house. And that's exactly what we did. And then so we started living together in May of 2024. And then in January of 2025, we bought our house. And we only actually started looking for houses in November of 2024. We put an offer in on the house in December of 2024. And our closing date was literally less than a month from when our offer first was put in. So it was like a really fast process for us. But so the whole thing people always say is, why would you buy a house before marriage? And so obviously you just heard the backstory. And let me just tell you, I would 100% not recommend for anybody, literally anyone, to buy property with someone before getting married to them. I would not recommend it. But you're like, but you did it. Because, and you're gonna be like, well, anyone would say that, can't an event, like you guys are gonna break up. My relationship is like very different than many people's. I would say like maybe 10% of people probably are able to like literally buy a house when they're dating someone before like actually even being married to them. And obviously like we're not engaged either. Here's the whole thing. We want to get engaged, we want to get married, we want to have kids. Like we talk about that very openly, and we've talked about that since like the day we started dating. Like it was never like a thought ever that we were going to break up. We've been like so serious from like the very day we started dating, to the point where people would be like, no, he's love bombing you. It's like we've literally been together for 4 years. We just had like a very healthy relationship that's rare nowadays. Like it's rare to have a healthy relationship where you like don't fight with someone, you are able even to live with them. Like people, I definitely think you should live with someone before getting engaged to them. Obviously that's like, you know, not, I guess if you're religious, like I don't know if people usually live together after marriage, or like if you would live with someone even when you were engaged, but I would definitely recommend living with someone before getting married to them, because you do not know what someone is like until you start living with them. Like, that is the truth. You don't know what they're like. I don't care if you see them all the time. You don't know what someone's like until you're living in a house with them. You're waking up together, you're going to sleep together every night, you're seeing each other, like, you're seeing what their habits are when they live with you, because for all you know, they could literally just like clean their house before you come over all the time, and they could be a total slob. Or maybe like you haven't seen this person, what they're like when they're angry or like going through a tough situation. People change when they have different emotions. So I definitely think you should live together, but obviously you should probably rent, right? That's like the whole thing here. It's like, yeah, you should live with someone before you're gonna get married to them, but you should be renting, because having a house is a way bigger responsibility. It's way harder than if you were to break up. What do you do with the house, right? And literally every mortgage person told us this too. Now people say it on social media. Like, I heard it all from our mortgage people already, so you don't need to tell me twice. I'm completely aware that that's like a very rare thing that works out. But if I knew someone that had the relationship that I have, which I actually do know one couple, and they have a very healthy relationship. Like, I know the ins and outs of their relationship because I'm really good friends with the girl and my boyfriend's really good friends with the guy. They're not married, they're not engaged, and they actually also have a house together. And they are probably the only people, if they didn't have a house together, that I would be like, you know what, another person that could do this is them. Oh, actually, just kidding. I know two couples. One of them lives in Ohio, where I live now. The other is from Texas, where we were. I know two couples that I could confidently say could buy a house together and while they were dating and not being engaged. And that's literally it. And I know a ton of people in relationships, and I like just wouldn't say that because, you know, it's complicated. It gets really complicated when you break up. And so if you have, and the reason I'm saying I wouldn't recommend anyone to do this, even though I did it, is because if you have an inkling in your head that, like, you know what, this might not work out. Like, we might break up, or like they really are annoying you, like they're really making you PO'd all the time, and you're like, I'm so like sick and done with this, like I cannot put up with this anymore, but you just like keep going in the relationship. Or say like they have something about them that's just like a total ick to you, and you're like, oh, it makes me like cringe. I can honestly say that, like, I think if you're really in love with somebody and you actually are meant to be with them, like nothing that they do will give you like an ick or like actually make you annoyed, because like you're meant to be together, you're compatible. And you might be with someone right now, or a majority of people are probably with someone that's the most compatible they've ever felt with somebody, but it's not the most compatible that they will ever feel with someone. Think about it. Whenever you get out of a relationship, you're always like, oh my God, I feel like I'm never gonna love someone the way I loved that person. But then you meet somebody and lo and behold, you love that person so much more. It's a love that you've never felt before. That's what happens after breakups. Like, you think that you were meant to be with that person, so it hurts so bad, but then you learn that you weren't meant to be with them, and so you meet the person you're actually meant to be with, and it's happily ever after, right? But so many times, like, think about it, 50% of marriages end in divorce. So if you're gonna sit here and tell me, like, you know, the whole thing with the house, you're gonna break up, you could be married and still break up and get a divorce, and then, you know, you're in the same situation. Like, just because you're married doesn't mean you're going to be with somebody forever, which is unfortunate. But the reason I think that that happens is because a lot of times when people get like a little bit older and they have like this timeline in their head for their life, they settle for someone that is what I said. They feel the most compatible with out of everyone they've ever dated, but it's not the most compatible they'll ever be with someone, and that's why they end up getting divorced, because they settled. Or, I mean, also, obviously that's just like one situation. There's a million reasons that people get divorced. And I fully believe that, you know, if you are in a relationship and you're unhappy, like, you know, there's things that you could work out, but there's also things that are just totally like, you should get a divorce. Like, say, abuse or just different situations like that, verbal or physical, like domestic violence, all that stuff is very, very serious. And if you're in a marriage like that, then you should get divorced. Like, I believe that divorce should be an option, even though that sounds like terrible. Divorce, like, if you're in a really crappy situation like that, then that person, I don't know, it's like cheating. Like, if someone does it once, they'll do it again. If someone does something physically or verbally to harm you, like, they will do it again. They were capable of hurting you that bad once. Obviously, little fights and stuff, bickering, that happens, like, to people. That's not worth getting a divorce over. A lot of times people will, like, have a midlife crisis. That's not worth getting a divorce over. Like, you should be able to figure out everything in your life. Like, you should never be in a situation where you're like, you know what, I need to work on myself, so I'm gonna break up. That's another thing. Like, if you've ever felt that, then you should never get a house with someone, because guess what? If you're dating someone, you should be able to work on yourself while you're dating that person. And I'm sure that's the reason people get divorced. They're like, midlife crisis, quarter life crisis, I need to work on myself, I need to restart. Like, people go through all these, like, crazy things, right, of why they would break up or get divorced. And so if you ever have any sort of inkling of that, obviously then you should not buy a house with that person. But in our situation, like, to be literally totally transparent, and you probably think I'm lying, or you're gonna say, like, it doesn't matter, you're gonna break up, like, you're still in the honeymoon phase, whatever. We've been dating like 4 years. We don't fight. Like, I'm very, like, blessed to be in the relationship that I have, where I feel, like, so confident in somebody, where I feel like we have such a healthy relationship that we were able to buy a house together so young. And if you buy a house together, you know, with somebody, then you should want to be with that person forever. And if you can't honestly say that, then you shouldn't do it. Now, obviously, sometimes you are in a honeymoon phase where you'll be like, oh my God, I want to be with you forever. And then, you know, you kind of learn who they really are. And then you don't want to be with them forever. And again, like, we've been together now for 4 years. We've already lived together before, like, a variety of different times. And then we lived together consistently for a year. So, you know, it's like, I just think we're in a very unique situation. And that is why we bought a house together before getting engaged or getting married. Now, you could be like, why would you not just get engaged? It literally, like, I'm telling you, if there was, like, infinity money, right, then, you know, if we could have gotten engaged, like, while we were living in the apartment and still been able to, like, buy a house, then, you know, like, maybe that would have happened. But buying a house is a huge financial responsibility. And that's really, like, what it came down to. Like, did I want to be engaged and still renting, or did I want us to live in a house? And I wanted to live in a house. That was my priority. Not to say that marriage shouldn't be a priority. It's just, like, I'm 21. My boyfriend now is 24. Like, do we need to be engaged right now? Like, no. But if we were to, our lease was ending in April. So, you know, did I want a house and to stop renting? Yes. Like, that was, like, just the priority in my head of my life. I wanted a house. And so that is exactly what we did. And, you know, would I recommend it to people, though? No. I'm not trying to influence you to go and buy a house with your boyfriend. Because, again, I just said it's, like, very serious. You need to think about it. There's a lot of things that go into it. You need to really consider if your relationship, you want to be with them forever. And I'm sure there's a lot of people where they think they want to be together forever. They're dating the person, they buy a house, it doesn't work out. Then what do you do with the house? Like, it's a huge, just awful thing to happen. I know that that happens to people. And so that's why I am not telling you to do it yourself. It's like, but I think that, you know, you should really know your own relationship, and you should know if that's a decision you're able to make with the person that you're dating. And if you are, then it's such a great thing, because then you get to get a house, and that's a really fun experience. And I've just had such a fun experience, like, having this house, and it's so much more exciting. And obviously I told you I have the 2 dogs, so they have a backyard now. Like, life is just so much more fun now that we have a house, instead of, like, having an apartment and a parking garage and having to, like, walk the dogs to go to the bathroom. Like, you know what I mean? All that, like, stuff. Now they have a huge yard. We used to have to, like, drive them to a park if we wanted them to, like, be able to play somewhere. So it's, like, such a better life experience, and I think it's so much more fun. And I love having a house, and I love decorating it, and it's just so awesome. It's been a great experience for us, and I know that this would not happen for everyone. And that's why I feel extremely lucky and extremely blessed. And so that is why we bought a house together. And you know what? You can have whatever opinion you want about it because you're entitled to your opinion. So if you want to believe that this is not going to work out, that's totally fine. Do whatever you want. But, you know, that's exactly what we did. And we really didn't tell a lot of people that we were going to do it because we knew that so many people would tell us this was a bad decision. Obviously, our families knew, and our families know our relationship, so they didn't like think twice about it. And I'm sure if you asked anyone that actually knew us, they would probably say the same thing, that like we're never going to break up. Like, we're definitely going to get married. Yeah, I think like anyone that knew us would say that. But again, I know that this is like really controversial, so that's just why we did it. So I figured I'd just explain exactly why. So let me know what other let me know what other videos you want to see next, and let me know in the comments if you know anyone that's done this or anything of that sort. So I love you guys. I'll see you in the next video.